Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Nationals podcast today, brought to you all by our friends at betonline.net. I am joined by Max Rayman today. We have got a retirement to discuss. Employee number 11 hangs it up. Ryan Zimmerman. We'll get to that after our intro.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Nationals podcast, and joining us tonight, it is Max Rayman of District on Deck to discuss the news that we had today. Max, Ryan Zimmerman is calling it quits after 16 seasons in, I believe it's 16, in Major League Baseball. Yeah, 2005. Yeah,
2020 doesn't count. He opted out.
Yep. Yeah, there you go. So 16 seasons of Major League Baseball for the captain, for Mr. National. When you saw the news today, what was your kind of initial reaction?
Dude, so it was funny. I was writing an article, and we had a new writer come on. Started today, and he messaged me. He was just like, "Hey, man, can I write about Ryan Zimmerman retiring?" And I didn't know he retired yet. And I was about responding, be like, "Well, he hasn't really retired yet. Like, he's still mulling it over." Let me go on Twitter real quick, just so I don't look like an idiot. First thing I saw was 7 minutes ago, Barry Shaluga of the Washington Post. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, you got it, dude." And then after that, it just hit me, man. Like, just spent like 4 hours in Twitter just going down memory lane. I mean, I was 9 years old when he made his debut in 2005. And I just remember watching him coming home from school, just looking at the Washington Post stats to see how he did. In 2006, his rookie season when I was 10. And from there, man, I mean, I'm 26 now. So, like, my entire childhood was just watching this guy play. And it's still surreal. I mean, I was at Nats Park or watching on TV for some of his biggest moments, the Grand Slam against the Phillies walk-off in, I want to say 2011, right before the Nats became relevant. I mean, I was at the game against the Cubs in Game 2 of the NLDS in 2016 when he and Bryce Harper hit homers, and I want to say the 8th inning when they're down like 2-0 to like save the series. So, I mean, I've seen so many Ryan Zimmerman moments and always been like, oh, yeah, he has another year, he has another year. Well, it's probably like no more a year. You and I have been talking about this for like 2 years now. When's he going to hang it up? And then he finally decided. I was surprised, but I don't know if you were.
Yeah, I think the lockout has a lot to do with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
We saw something similar happen with Howie Kendrick. Did he call it quits last year? Was that when he decided?
Yeah, it was after the 2020 season ended.
Right. And I think after all that, he's like, I don't really know if I want to wait around and kind of, figure out, like he could still go play, obviously. Howie was a pretty good hitter. And Ryan's the same way, but I think there is a certain amount of ready to get on with the rest of his life. I was of the opinion that he was going to come back for 2022, although it felt like goodbye there at the end of 2021 and he gets his moment.
Mm-hmm.
He had made the comment, I believe it was on the Sports Junkies. He had said, I'm kind of preparing like I'm going to play. I've not made a decision yet, but, I'm operating under the assumption I'm going to play. I'm keeping my body right. I'm doing everything I have to. And with that, I was like, I think it's going to happen. But once you factor the lockout in and where he's at in his career, if I don't know when I'm supposed to report and I'm like, man, I'm just going to keep hanging out with my family and I'm kind of at the tail end anyway, like, I might as well call it, right? I mean, and this is not, and I think it's important for a guy like this, it's not a case of the game passing him by, right? He still has a role as not just a veteran, a guy that you can kind of rely on the bench to give your young guys, some advice and whatnot, but also a productive role player at this point. A guy that, because they invested in a trade for Josh Bell, could give you could give you as a bench bat and also play some first sometimes. And hey, once the DH got involved, maybe we'd see Ryan there too. But so it's not like the game had passed him by in any respect, right? He still had a lot to give. So I like the fact, and I think a lot of Nationals fans are happy that Ryan gets to go out on his terms.
I mean, last year he was worth 1.2 WAR,
Right.
per B WAR, and put in comparison, he was only worth zero point 0.5 WAR in 2019, right? So, and that's including the year after he took off. And when it was announced that the DH was a thing, I was like, oh well, Zimmerman's obviously going to DH for the Nats next year. He's going to take some reps, going to split platoon with who I assume was going to be Riley Adams, and now I assume for now Adams is going to be the full time DH
Right.
because that way they can bring Tres Barrera up and make him the backup catcher. At least that's what I would do. But then this happens, right? And then thing you got to take in consideration. Pretty sure his wife just had his fourth kid,
They did. Yeah.
like a month ago. So does he really want to take a whole another year off being away from his wife while she's dealing with a baby? Um, so that's what you have to factor in. And then you were right. Like today was supposed to be the day where everyone tweets out 14 days between pitchers and catchers report. It's like a baseball unofficial holiday. And when it didn't happen, it's not surprising on the day it was supposed to be that Zimmerman decided to hang up his cleats. But it also looks like this has been under wraps for a while because when Barry Saruga tweeted it out, he had his article already done. And
Yeah.
and then Jesse Doherty of the Washington Post tweeted out his collage of pictures and stuff, and that was already done. And then I saw a tweet from Talk Nats that he heard about a week ago. Zimmerman was inviting people over for the day after Valentine's Day for a party, and at the time it didn't sound like nothing. And then he's realizing that it was going to be a retirement party. So it sounds like they've had this. He probably made his decision about a month ago.
Well, and publications always have that stuff ready to go. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
fired up. But I think that I mean, do you agree with me that the uncertainty here? It's like if you just
Yes,
had a fourth kid, like what the heck? Like screw that, man. Like
I mean,
I'm gonna go play with my children. I'm gonna go eat some ice cream. You guys, peace. You guys figure this out
look
yourself.
at
I'm good
John
here.
Lester and Kyle Seager also decided to hang it up, and no one knew. John Lester, you could assume. Kyle Seager, I really thought was going to be a hot
Yeah, yeah,
commodity on the trademark on the free agent market, and then he decided to hang him up partly because there was a lockout. Like so, yeah, he's not the only one to have his decision made for him.
yeah. It's and it's. I think at the end, I mean, the big thing was it was pretty cool that the fact that his foundation, Zim's foundation on
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, they're the ones who got to release the statement for him. Because I mean, I've seen in the past his wife will sometimes release statements because I don't think Ryan has social media. At least to my knowledge, he doesn't have any social media. But the fact that the foundation gets to do it, and I mean, classic Ryan Zimmerman fashion here, Max. All class. Thanks just about everybody you could think of,
Mm-hmm.
from the trainers to the stadium workers to the Lerner family to his agency to his teammates to his wife to his children. And I'll read you the last part of here of the statement. It says, "Although my baseball career has come to an end, my family and I will continue to be heavily involved in the DMV community. You have given so much to us over the past 17 years. It is time for us to give back to you. We look forward to continuing many of our community programs and starting new ones in the future. Our kids will be raised here, and this is now our home, and we could not be more excited. So this is not a goodbye, but it's more of a see you around, employee number 11." It kind of gets you a little bit emotional just reading that. But like this guy is um you know, I mean, damn near DC Mount Rushmore, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is a guy who was. I mean, when they came here, when the baseball team got brought back to DC, he was the first pick. He was the first pick they took. The first guy. He was the first new national, and for him to play here wire to wire, for him to, and also, he kind of went through all the stages, right? He went through the suck. The new franchise. You know what I mean? They're new, so it's not really suck. But like then they had the actual downturn, right? The
Yeah.
actual, you're a new franchise, you suck. Then they had the struggle, right? Once they became kind of a perennial playoff contender, he even mentions in his goodbye article the four falls of Washington in the first round. And then 2019, the World Series. I mean, this guy went through every single stage of development of a
Mm-hmm.
franchise. He lived it. And that's why, I mean, he could have retired before, but like it's kind of just, yeah, you've done it all, man. You've done it all, and even stuck around for a little while afterwards to help
Mm-hmm.
out. Even a year where he might not have had to. Um, he's been through all the phases, and it's awesome to see too the fact that he said it's more of a see you around. Like Ryan Zimmerman is not disappearing anywhere.
I mean, it's funny because he retires as the 57th player in baseball history to play 16 or more years with one organization.
Mm.
Like, that's just absurd. Like, that's not that many.
Less than
And,
60 people, and baseball's got a long history, right? It's
and
got
think
a long.
about it. Not their free agency wasn't a thing till Curtis Flood, and that was the 50s, 60s,
Mm.
somewhere in that era, right? So that was a good 50 to 80 years where, unless you were traded, you played for one team. So the fact that he still found a way to play for 16 plus years with the Nats in a time when it doesn't happen anymore,
Mm-hmm.
you're trading superstars for prospects the second you get a chance. Players have all the power now to ask for a trade. And Zimmerman, when he re-signed in 2012, he told the Nats, he's like, I'll take a hometown discount. Give me a no trade clause. Rizzo does not like giving those, and he gave Zimmerman a full no trade clause because that was the guy to build around. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just stuff like that that happens. And it's funny. ESPN even tweeted out a whole tweet today about Ryan Zimmerman retiring. And they usually don't do that. They usually stick to basketball and football primarily. And if they do talk about baseball, it's like the playoffs and other stuff. Not and it's usually not for a guy that's not going to be in the Hall of Fame, but for the fact that Zimmerman
Yeah.
played his entire career for one team, the fact that he was their first ever draft pick. And another thing people forget, he was in the minors for what, 40 games? He got called up the
Right.
year he got drafted. That doesn't happen anymore.
Right, and it's so impressive to see. Let's I'm going to take a quick word here from our sponsors, and we can kind of keep talking about what Zim's rise and what his legacy means. Today's show is brought to you all by Built Bar, our friends at Built. I bet Ryan Zimmerman housed a few Built Bars when he decided to retire. I'm sure he took a load off and just ate a bunch. And he can eat whatever he wants now. You guys can go to built.com today. It's built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15. Locked 15, you'll get 15% off at built.com today. All kinds of flavors: mint brownie, coconut almond, white chocolate cookies and cream this month too. So go check that out today. Once again, built.com, promo code locked 15. And the real headliner to the career too is world champion. And Max, he was not a passenger, right, for that world championship. He was a major contributor day in and day out. And mind you, not at a very young age, right? What's he, 36, 37?
37. So he was
37,
35,
34,
right?
35 in that run. And was a major everyday, a part of that. And, it kind of goes back to what we talked about, like to be there for the entire building of it. I mean, it's just, like that kind of cements his legacy, I think, in the DC sports lore, is that this is a guy who stuck with it. This is almost like, honestly, like the only other athlete I can think of has happened. If Bradley Beal somehow managed to stay with the Wizards for like another 6, 7 years and got a title, everybody would be like, we're not sure why you stood here for so long, Bradley,
Well,
but you did, and you get the championship.
when people think it's literally going to be him, Ovi, and Backstrom.
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
as the guys
Ovi,
who stayed, and
and they were made the foundational pieces to build that team around because when Obi was drafted, number one pick for a reason, they
right.
were really bad the first few years, but when the two of them started gelling together, the rest is history. Similar to the Nats, the only difference is their draft picks hit, so they could stay contenders compared to Nats not. But like that's two other guys that it's like those three were the entire 2000s and 2010s. When you think DC sports, you think those three guys.
Yeah, and like you mentioned too, I mean, look, I love Ryan Zimmerman. He's not going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, do
No,
you think he'll get on the ballot? He might get on the ballot.
I mean, yeah, he's going to be on the ballot just because eligible, but
Yeah,
he's not going to get any votes. I mean, I will die on this hill. If he doesn't get hurt, I think he gets close
yeah,
to being
yeah,
an actual like Hall of Famer if he does injuries, man.
yeah. No, that's a very fair point. I mean, um, I think the next part of this conversation, because and look, this is something that we've talked about ad nauseum. We've had a lot of these conversations about Ryan Zimmerman and his legacy, and it's just now finally today happening. So, we're kind of reviewing that, but I think for Nationals fans now, right, the big question is, okay, what does this mean for the Nats? And I actually think it's a positive thing. You know, Ryan, for as good as Ryan was towards the back end, I mean, look at what this group. You and I have talked about it. I've talked about it a bunch in the show. I'm sure you're writing about it too. This year for the Nationals is going to be all about seeing what they've got with a bunch of younger guys. And Josh Bell is somebody, I mean, we kind of know what he is, but also you want to see what, he needs to keep playing well if the Nationals are going to re-sign him. You and I have talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
The next position, though, is it's that backup first base, backup catcher,
Yeah.
DH position. And Riley Adams, who you've mentioned, seems like the guy. And I know they're getting him some reps at first. And good Lord, I hope spring training happens sometime soon because I'd love, we'd love to get him, love to get some pictures of him in Florida, playing first base, right? I think that's what we're all kind of trying to see what they're going to do with guys like that. How's Lane Thomas going to do? But that opens up that position. And I think the first
Mm-hmm.
guy we all think of is Riley Adams immediately for the backup first DH. Just find a way to get this guy in the lineup because he was so good down the stretch last year.
And then another, actually, first person I thought of was Tres Barrera. Last year when he called up
Oh
in
yeah,
30 games, he was excellent. And then Riley Adams and Keeper Ruiz were called up, so he got sent back down. Not fair, but it is what it is. And now, and everyone's like, well, Riley Adams is going to do backup. Now DH is a thing. And I was like, oh, Zimmerman's going to split time with Riley Adams. And then maybe Trace gets called up. Now you need a DH. This gives a way for the Nats to carry 3 catchers and get away with it. I say you take advantage of it because they all have different aspects that they're good at. Barrera is more of a contact guy to get on base. Riley Adams is that power, and then
mm-hmm.
Keeper Ruiz is just like your
All
all
around.
around, just like solid, like hopefully all star, and that's going to help out. But we'll see. I mean, if a dream scenario next year's DH for the Nats is Kyle Schwarber. That's who I want back. That's who I
Right,
want in.
right, right,
But
right.
if that doesn't happen, I would love to see Riley Adams be our DH because who else could it be? Yadiel Hernandez, whoever loses the outfield spot, so like Robles or Lane Thomas. I
Andrew
don't really,
Stevenson. I mean,
and like
it's
I don't think you want those guys.
right.
Maybe
I agree.
Hernandez, but like you don't really want those guys. And then I don't know if any of like our prospect bats are ready. Like I don't
Right.
think Jackson
Yeah,
Clough is
Donovan
ready.
Casey, him up there. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
No, I mean Donovan Casey's also more projected to be a fourth outfielder because of his strikeout issue. And the power bats that you do have, TJ White, Brandon Bergier, not really a power bat, but he's a contact guy, and then Brady House, none of them are near ready, right?
Right.
There's gonna be a few years. So like Riley Adams for me right now is a front runner to be the DH, which helps out. But at the same time, the way you said, they're gonna miss Zimmerman because you're in a rebuild. You need that guy to help out with the mentoring. And they're
Right.
going to miss in the middle rebuild, they're going to miss Zimmerman's mentorship to helping the guys learn who they are and become baseball players.
Yeah, it's the trade-off, right? The opportunity is what presents itself now, but
Mm-hmm.
they are going to lose that veteran presence. And that's the big thing now because you look across this roster, where does the veteran leadership come from? That is, it's kind of Nationals veteran leadership, right? I mean, Josh Bell's been there for a year.
It's
Cesar Hernandez is not been a national. He's coming in.
it's Strasburg. If he
But
stays
here's
healthy,
the
it's
thing:
Strasburg.
we hope he's in the clubhouse around the guys because he's
I
hurt.
mean, the
And
funny thing, and like the other veteran is going to be a 23-year-old named Juan Soto.
right, right, and so the Victor Robles is now one of the more tenured guys at a position, and this
Mm-hmm.
guy's fighting for his Nationals life probably.
Patrick Corbin, like he's under his 4th year of the team, but he's one of the longest tenured guys also.
Right, it's crazy to think, and so they've got some pitching mentorship. You're totally right, but as for the kind of the hitting, the fielding side of things, I
It's
think Josh
Soto.
Bell's a guy. Yes, it's Soto. Well, it's Soto. It's going to be Soto. Yeah, which
He's just the
I
longest
love. I'm
tenured off.
excited. I'm excited to see that. Right, and he's just such a mature guy as it is right now. But I think Josh. This is why you and I had talked about Josh Bell. Right, you and I had talked about maybe the idea of re-signing him, not as a guy that helps you win in 22, right? But as a guy you get locked up for 2 or 3 years. So once you try to be competitive again, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
worried about finding a first baseman, right? We know what we got over there at first. He to me is a pretty natural leader, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I know it's kind of a weird thing to think of, but like the book club stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
that's natural leader stuff. No, you don't do television ads about a book club that you're doing if you're just some a guy who's got no interest in getting involved in the community and being a leader. This guy is kind of like Zimmerman in that respect. Is that this guy wants to be out there? He wants to be a positive influence on other people.
Another guy that's going to be a leader, even though he's entering the 2nd year of the team, it's gonna be Alcides Escobar. Yeah, he
Yeah,
doesn't have like the leadership amongst like he's like not tenured, but has a World Series ring, was instrumental, key success to that Royals like time period,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah.
Not really a
Leadoff
dynasty,
hitter
but
for a
you know,
World Championship team.
mhm.
Leadoff hitter. I mean,
And like yeah, Cesar Hernandez is new, but he's also gonna be another guy that they're gonna have to pick his brain because he's close to the 10-year mark and the maybe not 10, but he's been there for a while. Like I feel like he's
yeah,
always burning the nets. So those two are gonna be leaned on. Josh Bell, I mean, Josh Bell is low key perfect for this because he already went for a rebuild in Pittsburgh. He knows what to expect. He's been rebuilding his entire career. He's never played for a winning team.
yeah. I think so. I think while you can never replace the natural leadership of Ryan Zimmerman, just
Mm-hmm.
just from like a Ryan, like where can I get good whatever food, like seafood?
Yeah.
Where can I get good? Like Ryan, like you could ask Ryan Zimmerman literally anything, about being a national, and he can help you out. Yes, and amongst other things, right? About
Mm-hmm.
everything else. But I still think they, like you said, they do have some vets. The problem is those guys haven't been around very long, so the burden of being a national longer now falls on the shoulders of Juan Soto. It always comes back to Juan, doesn't it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything really always comes back to Juan out there.
I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
there was a reason they paid all that money for Jason Worth in 2011. Yeah, for his playing style, but they knew he wasn't a superstar. They wanted it one to bring in people to like, oh, if Jason Worth's going, I want to go, but mostly his leadership, man. And I want to see once free agency reopens and the lockout ends, if they sign a guy to be that veteran leader. Is there a guy in the free agent market you would want to come in for that type of role?
Right. Trying to think. I mean,
Like Chris Bryant, but that's a lot of money.
because the thing is, I don't know if you necessarily bring in veteran leadership. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things that's more cultivated, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. I think Schwarber makes a lot of sense because he was pretty natural too, right? I mean, you'd see him, you hear him talk a lot of times in post game stuff, just so team oriented, team focused. Um, and they loved him here. They absolutely love Schwarber in DC. I mean, he was
Schwarbaum.
yeah, Schwarbombs were. I mean, they were just the crowd. The crowds of the people love it. I always love his interviews afterwards too. Once again, very team oriented. If you're going to go for a veteran, and he kind of, I mean, he's going to be excuse me, a bit more expensive, Max. Because I
Yeah.
think people are starting. His value in modern baseball is something that I mean,
Hmm.
it's especially
Especially
with
with the DH.
the DH coming in and with the leadoff ability that we're all seeing now. Uh, he can thank Dave Martinez for this too, because Dave Martinez did not give up on hitting Schwarber leadoff. It didn't always work out in Chicago. Try to hear in DC when he got a
Worked
hold of him
perfect.
again. And
Hmm.
guess what? He's adding a couple extra figures onto that contract he's going to get
Hmm.
because of his ability, not just with the DH coming in my opinion, but with also the idea of hitting him first becomes much more versatile. I think we'd all love to see him back in DC. Multi-year deal. It's one of those things again where you're probably thinking, all right, if we bring him back, one of the outfield spots is taken care of. Once we try, as we're trying to figure out who can stick, who will not, it's not something I have to worry about. And even if he sucks in the outfield, I can just put him at DH, and that's that. So
Hmm.
it's the first guy who comes to all of our minds right now, um, because I don't think they should go too heavy spending wise,
Not
And
yet.
if you're going to do it, that's the kind of guy to do it because you know what the plan is with him, and you've already seen him just have major success in the ballpark, albeit a short period of time.
I mean, also and yeah, he's gonna be pricey, but like I don't even think you have to break 100 mil to get Schwarber. He's
No,
not gonna come in the range of Chris Bryant and
no.
Carlos Correa. Like, yeah, one of the best guys left without breaking the bank. What 15 a year, 20 a year? I
Yeah.
mean, but
Which to me is probably ends up being,
I would
it's
give him
every day
good
is not
years.
going to feel like it. And the thing about Kyle Schwarber is it won't feel like it's worth it every single day. It's not how
No.
that works. But he's going to provide for you. We've already seen him in a lineup with one. I mean, we've already seen him in a lineup. Here's the thing: you got if you get Schwarber back, you've got one figured out. You've got three or two figured out. You got to find a third banana, and you can work through that and try to figure that out. But that's pretty decent position to put some in.
Hmm.
I just want to ask you one more thing. As we get out of here, um, you know, Do you think this is somebody who's going at Ryan Zimmerman who is going to return to the organization
100%.
eventually in some capacity, maybe a fan ambassador, or do you think he's going to end up being, some kind of front office situation where it's not like a mascot situation? It's an actual, player develop or coaching or player development or whatever. Not in the immediate thing. He wants to spend some time with his family, and he's, good Lord knows, he's earned it. But do you think that's going to happen at some point? And what do you think that role could be?
Matt Wayrick of NBC Sports Washington actually just tweeted out 15 minutes ago, and he said, if you're wondering what might be next for Zimmerman, he told Junks Radio in November that would be open to a part-time broadcasting gig and might consider managing down the line.
There you
So
go.
yes, 100%.
So future Nationals manager Ryan Zimmerman is what you're saying?
Yeah, I would love him in the booth.
It's kind of interesting. It's kind of sucks, right? Because I like Kevin Franzen a lot.
Yeah,
But
and if Zimmerman had said he was doing this a year ago, then
right.
yeah, like
I think now on the days where Franzen doesn't do it, I think it's a no-brainer. I think Zim's going to be the guy
just
there.
test him out, see if he can do it or not.
Yeah, and maybe look, if they add a desk eventually back again, it might be him and Dan Kolko on the desk. But here's the thing: is they got to get creative. They got to find ways to honor him as much as possible. Max, I did you go to a couple games last year? I think you did, right?
I think I went to one. I was just busy. I went to.
But you saw it on TV. Every single time Zim came up, it was a standing ovation.
Because no one knew when it was going to be the last.
Right.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. I loved it. Never got tired of it.
Yeah, I went to the game, the game right after the fire sale. So I went to August. The day before the fire sale. I believe I went to July 30. I don't know. I just remember there was a lot of new faces when I was at that game. It was like Luis Garcia and Kara Kibum, and like I think. It was just awesome. Like
Jeffrey Rodriguez. I remember Jeffrey Rodriguez.
I was there for Gabe Klobosic's debut. That's right, because he came in the ninth inning.
Yeah. All right, Max. So there it is. Ryan Zimmerman calls it quits. Amazing career. I'm actually kind of happy for him today. Like it's sad it's over, right? But like, genuine sense of joy and excited to see what's next for him.
And it wasn't just Nat's Twitter that was happy. Like it was all of like baseball Twitter that was enjoying it. I even saw some Phillies fans getting in the fun. I saw a bunch of Phillies fans said, finally, because Zimmerman would always put up monster games against the Phillies.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. And look, I think at this time period too, where everybody is just searching for some positive baseball news, this kind of lifts us up and makes us all happy. Max, where can people find you and your work?
Check us out at District on Deck. Check me out on Maximum Raymond. Just gonna keep you guys with some baseball stuff as we slowly get through this lockout. Once again, thanks for having me back, man.
Always, man. It's always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
All right, dude.